Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we're going to check in with the Ames Finance Director. My guest today is City Finance Director Duane Pitcher. Duane, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Susan.
I know this is a busy time of year for you. This is the time that we get the budget ready for the next fiscal year. Why don't you talk a little bit about the whole general process of budgeting, the revenues and expenses side, and then how people can get involved?
Sure. Well, we've been working on the budget for several months now. Our first period of involvement was in October when we held the town budget meeting, which you attended.
I did.
And that's when we're just beginning the process with the public, so we get input on kind of things that they would like to see more or less of in the budget. And then after that, we begin some of the overall work, and then we put together some numbers and go to the council in late November. And that's when we get some input from them on what they'd like to see in the budget. And then we do some instructions to our departments based on that. And finally, we tell them to prepare their budgets. And we spend several months working on that and going through those items. And we've already been to council with our capital improvement plan this past Tuesday, and that was on the 15th of January. On the 22nd, we'll take the capital improvement plan for a public hearing. So that'll be the public's opportunity to give input on the capital improvement plan. That's on the website right now, so anybody can take a look at that.
Well, and the city's budget, like many cities, is sort of split in two, into an operating budget and a capital improvements plan, and those basically are on separate tracks.
Well, more or less. We have a capital improvement plan, which is a 5-year plan, and that just gives us an idea to help us plan out for those things that take longer to fund, and we really need a longer time horizon. That first year of the plan gets adopted with our regular budget, and that's our only spending authority, is that first year. The rest of the capital improvement plan is just a plan to help us with planning and help the citizens.
And what's an example of a project that might be in the capital improvement plan?
Well, a good one that people I think are well aware of is the library renovation and renewal. That's been on the plan for a couple years now. There's several steps that take place for that project because it required a vote, obviously. So we had the vote timed out and the smaller amount of expenditures that led up to that. Then we had other years where we had expenditures for the design. And right now we're in, of course, to the construction process, and the library is moved over to their current location.
Right, not every item in the capital improvement plan is as big as the library item. Perhaps you could give an example of a smaller item.
Oh, any type of street improvement would be included on there. Trying to think of some other ones. The big portion would be in our utilities. So any type of improvements to keep those plants running, and also the underground infrastructure that people don't see, but it's also very important, that would be included in that plan. So those are things that we can't just be funding as they come up. We really need to be planning out in the future.
Major maintenance, expansion of a park, and expansion to a facility.
Those would all be part of that. That's correct.
Okay, so that capital improvements plan is moving along, and also on the other side you have the operating budget.
Right, and that's the general day-to-day operations of the city, and that includes all the utilities. Now we every year, of course, upgrade that budget and move through that process. This coming, or a week from Friday, on the 1st of February, we'll be going to the council in the afternoon at a regular meeting time. And myself and the city manager, Steve Shanker, will spend minimally a couple hours going over the big picture of the budget. And then in the following week, on I believe it's the 5th, 6th, and 7th of February, a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, each department will come in and present their portion of that operating budget. And then the following week, on the 12th of February, is when we'll wrap the entire budget up.
And the City of Ames, like other cities, has to actually certify its budget and have it to the state by March 15th.
By March 15th. Now we'll go the 5th of March, which is a Tuesday, our first regular council meeting in March. And there's a couple things we're doing at that meeting, actually several. One, we have to certify our budget, and that creates the spending authority. And we also certify our property taxes. That, of course, is the part that needs to go to the county so that they can put together all the other taxing authorities and send out the bills for that. In addition to that, you talked about the capital improvement plan. That includes some debt. So we also hold the public hearing for the general obligation bonds that are coming up and get the authorization to issue that debt that's going to fund the budget that the council is approving.
Now, most residents of Ames will understand that one of the sources of revenue for the local government is property tax, but that's not the only source.
That's not the only source. You know, that's the bill that people get twice a year, and it's not just the city on that bill. We make up about 1/3 of that. Schools and other large taxing authority. But the bulk of our budget, actually more than 50%, are payments for services for our utilities. So the water, the sewer, the electric, and storm sewer are paid for as you use them. Now, we don't use the storm sewer, so to speak, but our property is served by the storm sewer. The water that runs off, obviously we want that to go elsewhere. So that we're just changing that billing process, as you know, in that area. So if you have more area, you'd pay a little bit more. Just like if you use more water, your water bill is higher. If you use more electricity, your electric bill is higher.
So those are the different sources of revenue. And then talk about the expenses.
The expenses, that makes up about 50% of our revenue, and it's about 50% of our expenses are those charges for services, which are mainly utilities, but there's several other areas. If you've ever used any of our recreation classes, all those include a fee. That pays for the direct cost of the class, doesn't always pay for the facility, but it does pay for use of that, keeps up the operation. A good example would be our new Furman Aquatic Center. The fees that people pay, either for the annual pass or the daily visits, fund all of the operation of that facility. Now, we have some debt service fund that helps pay for the facility, actually pays for all of it. We voted for that. But there's no additional cost to the taxpayer to operate that facility. So there's a couple examples. We also get grants. Transit's a good example of that. There's federal funding, and that's a unique operation in that part of the funding comes from students through their fees, part comes from the city from property taxes, and part comes from the university. But there's a lot of different sources. We put that all together in one budget.
So for people who want to learn more about the budget, you mentioned these documents are online, but they're also available if you wanted to pick up a hard copy at the library, if you wanted to do some research. We certainly encourage people to look at the documents.
We certainly do. This year's budget, of course, we're still putting together, so that's not online yet, but last year's is on there. And you know, if you're not interested in going through all the details, which you know I think some people wouldn't be, there's a good summary information included in that document also. And then some people also would be interested in the details. Maybe if they're an interest in, you know, how do we determine how much money we're going to spend on cleaning streets? You know, there's a page on that, and it tells you, you know, how much per mile it costs to clean streets and how often we do it, and we provide all our service efforts. And as you know, if we want to provide a higher level of service, it in most cases is going to cost a little bit more. So those are some of the decisions that the City Council makes. So at X level of service, it's this many dollars, and that's kind of where they adjust that.
So how many pages is the budget? Like, let's take last year's budget and just in general.
Oh, 380 around there.
Pages.
Starts with a few pages of summary in the front, and then on each service that we have, there's at least a couple pages that describes that service, tells how much we spend on it, and there's another page that provides some different measures on the cost per units and that sort of thing for those services. And then we have some summaries again in the back of the document.
So last year's budget is online, and you can open it up. It's a big file. It takes a little bit to load, but it's just full of really interesting information about why things cost what they cost, about the service levels that are offered, about what it would cost to ratchet that service level up, but just really good information. This coming budget won't be online for a while, but it will be when it's approved.
As soon as it's sent out to the council, we'll have a draft out available online, so the public can see exactly what the City Council sees. So that the day it's sent to them, we'll post it out on the website that same day, so it'll be marked draft because the council will have not approved it, but it'll be available. And also on the February 1st, Friday, that document that we'll take to council then that provides a lot of kind of big picture summary information that'll be available just like any other council agenda, and the supporting documents are available online.
Do you get people calling up and asking you a lot of questions about the budget?
Occasionally. You know, it's usually more specifics. They're interested in a certain project or, you know, a certain thing. Obviously, people are interested in what's going to impact them. So I think a lot of the questions go to the departments that are in charge of delivering the service. So if there's going to be a street improvement in my area, I may be interested in when that's going to happen and what impact that's going to have on me. So I think we get more of those questions than just kind of the general questions about the budget.
So the city of Ames, I think, is sort of known for having a lean, mean budget. There's not a lot of fat, and I'm assuming this year's no different.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we've really stressed that it's dollars to deliver a service, and if we don't deliver that service, we don't collect those dollars anymore. For example, based on some input from the state and other things, we no longer do the restaurant inspection through the city. That there were some tax dollars that came along with that. Those dollars left the budget along with the service. So I think tying those together really kind of helps to keep the budget where it is. There are some state limitations on our tax levies, the main one being on the general levy at $8.10. The city is well under that limit, so we are not taxing it at the level that we can tax. If you look at a lot of other cities, they tax at that level, at the limit. We tax at the level that is required to provide the services that the council and the citizens have decided that they want.
Well, Duane, I know you're busy. Thank you for stopping by. It's always interesting to learn about the budget.
Well, thanks, Susan.
A very interesting topic. Again, available on our website. If anybody wants to look at those documents, they're available for viewing. Of course, the numbers change year to year, but some of the basic knowledge you can kind of gather from some of the previous year's documents. And Duane, I know you're available if anybody has any questions.
Absolutely.
So if you're interested in seeing the City of Ames budget meetings but can't attend the actual meeting, why don't you check us out online? You can watch Channel 12 through your internet connection, and if you actually missed that show, you can check it on video on demand. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.